This week, one of the prophecies, the promises of the Moshe Mashiach is that there will be the return of prophecy. Prophecy.
So, prophecy is nevuah.
Yeah.
If you don't know.
So not the famous pasuk in Tanakh in the book of today also the 12 prophets. You have the book of Yoel Hanavi, and it says in Kapitel Gimel, when Mashiach will come, Eshbrech Esruchi, I will pour forth my spirit on all flesh, V'nibu b'neichem u'b'nei seichem, and your sons and daughters will become prophets. Has a few more verses that
as a teicheche?
No, as a prophecy.
As a nevuah after Mashiach comes.
After Mashiach comes, that everyone that there will be prophecy will be abundant for everyone. Similarly, we know the famous pasuk with which the Rambam finishes his sefer, that the world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem like water covers the sea. So there's Midrashim that explain the word das is Hashem, no other is Deus Hashem. Knowledge of Hashem also refers to Ruach HaKodesh. It doesn't just mean intellectual knowledge. It also means that there will be a revelation of supernatural wisdom. In other words, prophecy, divine spirit that will enhance the people's awareness of Hashem. And this week, in Sheikh Nun Aleph, the Rebbe spoke a lot about the return of prophecy. I want to discuss, there's three main points I want to discuss. I'll try to do it in short. They obviously, it's in a half hour, I can't cover everything. But the three main points I want to discuss a little bit: what is the purpose and role of prophecy in Yiddishkeit in general? What is the purpose and role of having prophets, having a Navi? Second point is the idea of the return of prophecy before Mashiach comes. It's an interesting thing. The Rambam writes that even before Mashiach comes, we'll have the return of prophecy. And this is one of the Hakdama, these are one of the things that will herald the coming of Mashiach. The Rambam actually gives a date. We'll discuss a little bit about this a little bit later. The third point, which I don't know if I'll have a chance to really discuss in depth, is the level of prophecy that will be in Yemei Mashiach. After Mashiach comes, the type of prophecy that will be then. So let's discuss, first of all, the first thing. First of all, the role of prophecy and prophecy in Yiddishkeit. Where does that fall in? So on a very superficial level, why is it so? The Rambam lists in his 13 principles of faith, the seventh and eighth principle regard prophecy. The seventh principle is to believe that there are certain people that because of their intelligence and their emotional capacities are fully developed, they are able to receive communication from the Eibishter, prophecy in general. The eighth principle is the principle of belief in the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu, which Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy was on a much higher level than everyone else's prophecy. The Rambam lists there four main things. First of all, Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy was not, so to say, was directly from the Eibishter himself. It didn't go through the medium of angels. His prophecy was without any metaphors. Most prophets only saw their prophecies and through a mashal. They didn't see things 100% clear. Things were said in the way of a metaphor, and they understood the meaning of the metaphor. But Moshe Rabbeinu received this prophecy. Fishahu was clear from the onset what the message was. Wasn't enclosed in any garments and any metaphors. Next point is that Moshe Rabbeinu, all prophets, when they used to receive prophecy, they used to go into some type of trance. They used to lose the capacity to, the body didn't function as normal. They would become like Meshuggah, so to say. They would leave behind the regular, mental capacity, and they used to get connected with something higher. And they used to shake and quiver, fall into whatever it is, different descriptions we have in the Nevi'im. But Moshe Rabbeinu, when he received this prophecy, it was like one friend speaking to another friend. His body was able to contain that revelation of godliness the way it is. And the fourth point is that his prophecy came whenever he wanted to. Well, all other prophets, they weren't promised to get prophecy whenever they wanted. Moshe Rabbeinu did. So anyway, Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy is of a totally different nature. And the eighth principle of the Rambam's 13 principle is the belief in the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu. So in the order of the principles of the Rambam, I'm pointing this out for a reason, is that the first first six principles are principles of faith regarding the Eibishter himself. To believe in the Eibishter is one, the Eibishter doesn't have any physical body, any things like that. You have to serve the Eibishter, whatever it might be. Right after the principles of belief in the Eibishter comes the belief in prophecy in general and the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu in particular. Then the Rambam goes on to the next set of principles are regarding that Torah is from heaven. Torah is min hashamayim, and that there won't be any addition or change in Torah. Then the Rambam moves on to reward and punishment, the Hashgacha, the Eibishter sees whatever everyone does, and the reward and punishment, Mashiach, Chiyas HaMesim. So the Rambam lists the idea of prophecy as a crucial part of Yiddishkeit. It's not just that it's a nice added feature, that we have Torah and we have mitzvahs and the Eibishter and reward and punishment. And you should also know there's prophets as well. But the prophecy is an integral part of the belief in Yiddishkeit. In other words, from the fundamentals of the belief in Yiddishkeit.
That's because it's Gimel.
Yeah, and
the Seder.
Huh?
It's not because of Seder.
You'll soon see why I mentioned the Seder. The Rambam also specifies this in his Yad HaChazak, in his famous Sefer of the Rambam, in the beginning, Hilchos Seder Torah, Perek Shin, chapter 7, he says, "Miyisoidei hadas," on the fundamentals of Yiddishkeit, leida shokel manapes bnei adam, to know that the Eibishter gives prophecy to people. Now, on a very simple level, we understand that the reason why prophecy is very important is because, the whole basis of Yiddishkeit is that Torah is min hashamayim, Torah is from heaven. If one doesn't believe in prophecy in general, which means obviously if he doesn't believe that there's a concept of prophecy, he definitely wouldn't believe in the concept of the Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy. He definitely wouldn't believe in that. So if you don't believe that there's communication between the Eibishter and mankind, you don't believe in the whole concept of Torah. Because the whole idea of Torah is based on the fact that there's a communication between the Eibishter and the world. But the Eibishter, gives, he gives over knowledge to the prophets to teach people what to do. So on a very simple understanding, that prophecy is a very integral part in the belief of Yiddishkeit. Without the belief in prophecy, you wouldn't believe in Torah. But the Rebbe says, it seems from the Rambam, there's something much more than that. Because if the whole belief in prophecy would just be in order that we should be able to believe in Torah, so if so, first of all, the Rebbe says a few things. First of all, the principles of belief in prophecy should be, after the Rambam says you have to believe in Torah, so as a supplement to that, you should also mention the fact that you have to believe in prophecy. Because the reason why prophecy is so important is because that is the foundation of our belief that Torah is from heaven. But it's all really needed in order to believe in Torah, that Torah is from heaven. So the belief in prophecy should be mentioned later. Second of all, there's a lot of details, not so many. The Rambam actually writes, interestingly enough, that were I to explain the uniqueness of the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu, so I would have to start explaining in many introductions. Even the Rambam says, I'll do it b'tachlis hakitz, I'll do it, as short as possible. It'll take at least 100 pages. The Rambam writes. He's not even going to attempt, at least in the Pirush HaMishnayos, the Sanhedrin, where it discusses the 13 principles of faith. He doesn't even attempt to explain the deep, how exactly prophecy works. More in Nevuchim, a little bit he does. So the Rambam gives, but there are a few details the Rambam does mention. He explains the uniqueness of the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu, and a little bit, even in one short sentence, what a prophet is. Someone that is intelligence is complete, and he's a type of person that he completely has control. And the Rambam also discusses in discusses the qualities of a prophet. He has complete control over his instincts and etc., etc. So from the fact that Rambam does add details, if his prophecy is just the only reason why prophecy is so important, so integral to Yiddishkeit, is because it sustains, helps us believe in Torah, the Torah from heaven. Wouldn't be so important to know all these details. So the Rebbe says a very fundamental point. Belief in prophecy in of itself is very fundamental to Yiddishkeit. Why? Because the idea of prophecy basically means that the Eibishter has connection to this world. When you believe in the Eibishter and how the Eibishter created the world and everything, the belief in prophecy is part of the belief in the, so to say, in the I don't know exactly the term Achdus Hashem, unity of Hashem, but the belief in the Eibishter's connection to this world. The Eibishter runs this world, and the Eibishter reveals, communicates messages to people in this world. That's a very integral part of a belief in the Eibishter, Not just the Eibishter created the world and he's somewhere up there and so on and so forth. But the fact that this causes the idea that the Eibishter is manifest within the world.
Why does it have to be through people, through Levim?
So therefore, the Rebbe teaches, therefore it's important to understand how prophecy works. As if prophecy would just be a guy had a dream and somebody reads him a telegram and he wakes up and he says, this is what I received. So if so comes out that the Eibishter is, the communication is in a very remote way. By the Rambam explaining how prophecy works, that the das of the Navi, the Rambam explains how a Navi would, so to say, would go into a trance and his physical, he wouldn't realize what's going on in the physical, the senses around him, and his mind would remain, so to say, detached from the immediate surroundings to be able to understand and contain the communication, the vision he was getting from above. The Rambam is highlighting the fact how the das ha'adam, the intellect of man, became a proper vessel for godliness. How the Eibishter unites with the das, with the intellect of man. The ultimate level of that is the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's also why the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu is so important in Yiddishkeit. And all the details of why the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu is so unique, which basically means that Moshe Rabbeinu had the ultimate communication with the Eibishter. His body didn't get, his body was able to contain it, was able to understand godliness in the purest form that even Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't, certain levels he couldn't reach. The Eibishter said, you can't see my essence, but the communication was on the highest level that any Navi could attain. This all is integral to the realization, to the understanding that the Eibishter connects to this world, that the Eibishter reveals his presence or his information in this world in a way that it becomes one with the world. And by Moshe Rabbeinu was in the most complete and comprehensive way that his physical intellect and his physical body was able to become one. He didn't have to lose himself. He didn't have to have any metaphors. This is part of understanding the fundamentals of Yiddishkeit, of understanding that the Eibishter communicates and has a direct line with this world. So in other words, the role of prophecy in general is not just the fact, in other words, it's not just the effect of prophecy. It's not just that there's a prophet, so the Navi could tell us things that we should do, we shouldn't do. But the actual idea of prophecy itself is a very, very important point, because the actual idea of prophecy shows how the Eibishter reveals himself in this world. So not everyone is able to be a prophet. As the Rambam goes on, there's certain qualities a person has to have, and even if he has that qualities, the Rambam says he's not necessarily assured that he will get the prophecy. But the concept of prophecy in of itself is a very fundamental point to Yiddishkeit in general. And obviously, prophecy also is very integral to the understanding that Torah is from heaven and the belief that, whatever Navi tells us we have to listen to and so on and so forth. So this is the importance of prophecy in Yiddishkeit in general. And it also explains to a certain sense why we make such a big deal about the fact that when Mashiach will come, there'll be the return of prophecy. It's a very nice thing to have prophets. You want to know which lottery ticket to buy, go to a prophet, he can tell you the lucky numbers, all things. That's what they use. Prophets they used to. Somebody will look in Tanakh. The prophets were used primarily in some cases for physical things. Somebody lost Sholom, lost donkeys. Donkeys were lost. He went to Shmuel Navi to find out where the donkeys are. And similar stories. So
not donkeys.
Asainis, female donkeys. So it's very good to have prophets. But the idea of prophecy really shows on the fact that there's Ashras HaShechina, that there's the Eibishter, so to say, manifesting himself in this world. There's revelation of the Eibishter in this world. The fact that now prophecy is not as strong as it was during the time of the Beis HaMikdash is because right now the world is not the proper keli for that type of communication. So when Mashiach will come, even before Mashiach will come, as we'll discuss, it's something that already started. If we are told that prophecy will return, it's not just that then we will know deeper things through prophecy, but the nekuda, the point over here is just the actual fact that it will be prophecy in such a great way means that the Eibishter will become manifest with the world in a very open way, more than ever before.
There is a date when Pascha Nevuah. I don't know if it's to do with the
Chum. Was destroyed. Yeah.
Then
that's what it says.
What was the Achim Levin?
Chag Chaya Malach.
Yeah.
I'll get to that soon if I have time. Now, I just will add one more nakud. This is really the last point I wanted to discuss, which is that when Mashiach will come, it says, in general, prophets have different prerequisites that they need to be smart and humble, and the number of conditions for prophecy. When Mashiach will come, there won't be any need for any conditions, because then it says now prophecy, so to say, the fact that we should communicate with this world is a chiddush. The world itself doesn't feel godliness. Yeah, the world itself doesn't feel godliness. Just that the person could, so to say, elevate himself, refine himself, make himself a proper vessel for divine communication, so he becomes a vessel for divine communication. Mashiach will come, you won't need to refine yourself. The world as it is will become one with the Eibishter. So prophecy will be for all. Everyone will be prophets, and you won't need to have all these conditions that are generally laid out, which I didn't mention. The Rambam, you look and mentioned the certain conditions, and you have to meditate, and it's a whole thing to reach the level of prophecy. Even at the time that people were able to become prophets, it wasn't an automatic thing. So because when Mashiach will come, godliness will be revealed within this world in the way of pshittas and simplicity. The same way physical things are real to us, godliness will be real to us. So prophecy will be on a totally higher level than it was before.
Why will it be needed in that case?
No, Adrab, if so, that brings out, when we say lost level, there'll be prophecy, means there'll be gilei elikos, that there won't be. The truth is that there's different periods and there's different. I'm probably not going to have time to get into that. Okay, this is just in general the idea of understanding the purpose, the role of prophecy in general. But now the next thing is also understand what was the purpose of having a prophet. Good, so there's the idea that Eibishter communicates. What were prophets used for? So the Rambam also discusses this in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, and the Rambam explains there's a number of points, but some of the main. I would maybe one way of putting it is in two separate points. One thing is prophecy. A prophet, through his prophecy, would be able to attain better understanding of the Eibishter than he could without the use of prophecy. Certain things a human intellect can't understand, or even if they could understand, it might have taken years and years of, understanding and calculation until he reached a certain point. Through prophecy, he's able to be marchiv daitei v'libo. He's able to attain better understanding of godliness than he could without his wisdom. More than his wisdom could attain on its own. And prophecy is also, again, the idea of prophecy is a very broad concept. Chassidus speaks a lot about it. Rambam speaks a lot about it. But prophecy is, as the Alter Rebbe writes in Tan Geras HaKodesh, that they saw whatever level they were. They didn't just know about what they were on. Prophecy was an actual revelation. When there was a revelation of godliness, that they actually were able to be asagas hamahus. They saw the thing the way it is. So this is the idea of prophecy, that it's the Rambam writes, most prophets didn't necessarily give any of that guidance to others. It was for themselves to have a better understanding of godliness. Second of all, the more practical aspect of prophets, which is what we know a lot about, is that they would do miracles. They would tell people, go to war, don't go to war, do this, don't do that, right? Like all the stories in Tanakh with Eliyahu and Elisha and so on and so forth. So they would give guidance as people didn't. They wonder, should I go into this business? Should I go into this business? Should I move here? Shouldn't I move there? All eitzes gashmim, they used to ask by Nevi'im, by prophets. So this, in a certain sense, reflects the idea of godliness not just being the Eibishter communicating, not just for remote spiritual things, but for, you see here also very clearly the unity of the Eibishter and physical needs of a person. Should I do this? Shouldn't I do? The Eibishter gave directives to the Navi, what the person should do or shouldn't do. So there's the directives of the Navi for, what I should do, what I shouldn't do, Now the role of a Navi was, in a certain sense, because he had these divine capabilities of, being able to understand and perceive godliness and tell people what to do and not to do, the role of the Navi, or the main Navim that we know about, was in a certain sense a spiritual leader. What did they do? Read Yeshayahu and Yirmiyahu and does. What was their role? Their role was to go and tell people, as the Rambam says, the role of a Navi in a certain sense was to tell the people that they have to serve the Eibishter, that if they're not going to listen to Eibishter, this is going to happen. If they will listen to Eibishter, good things will happen. The role of a Navi was somewhat of a spiritual guide. He was the one that communicated the word of Hashem to the people. He couldn't make new mitzvahs. Torah and mitzvahs only Moshe Rabbeinu gave. A Navi didn't have a right to add any new halacha after the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu. But the purpose of a Navi was as a spiritual guide, was a communication with the Eibishter. The Eibishter wants you guys to become better, and this is what's going to happen. So that was, again, it was the role of a Navi was of and again, just tying it into what I discussed before, the role of a Navi in a certain sense was someone that communicated what the Eibishter wants from you in the here and now, and where you are. If you want to know what to do and what not to do, and you go to a Navi, you want to know, yes, particularly what the Eibishter wants from you, what the Eibishter is happy with the state of the Jewish people or not. He would send Nevi'im to tell the people,
Most was Teichacha, most Nevi'im that we know.
I guess if there was no need for Teichacha, there wouldn't be a need for the Nevuah. I mean, the Nevuah that's written down, there were more prophets, it says there's 600,000 Nevi'im. And how many prophets are written down at 48? Only the Nevuah that was needed for future generations.
And the Nevuah that they said was a fraction of the...
Yeah, well, they said much more. What was needed for us? No. A lot of prophecies are added up. In the Chomis, in the Nevi'im, look in Rashi, in Parshas Ha'azino, he explains that the Navi could tell you the negative things that will happen and the good things that will happen. If they ever wanted to know.
So those things are not revealed so much in the history.
In the Yeshayahu, a lot of Nevuahs are good Nevuahs. So it was good and bad, whatever made the different messages, Like a father teaches his son, if you do this, whatever. But
Medrash says what you're saying. The Medrash says that Im lay at Eid, if you don't listen to Eid, then let's send you Nevi'im. Add till the Eid from the Tzabbas Eivashis. That's what the Medrash says.
Also the Chomis, but most of it is Teichare, Yeshayahu.
But even the Chomis is also encouraging to
now, this next point I wanted to discuss, I guess I don't think I'll be able to go to the third point. The return of prophecy. The Gemara says that when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Nevuah stopped. The last three prophets that we know was Chagai, Chaya, Malachi, they were at the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash. And the last prophet, Malachi, finishes off the pasuk, his last famous pasuk, Hineni Shelech Lo, and second last pasuk, I'm going to send you Eliyahu Hanavi before the great and awesome day of the Eibishter. I'll send you Eliyahu Hanavi. So the number of Rishonim, the Smag, the Rekech, they write, what he's trying to say is, he's saying that now I'm the last prophet. From me and on, there won't be any prophecy. But you should know that at the end of days, before Mashiach comes, whatever exactly it will be, the Eibush is going to once again send a prophet to prepare the Eden for Mashiach. The Rebbe spoke about this a few times. The Rebbe very strongly explained that it doesn't mean, we'll soon see also what the Rambam writes in other places. The Rambam also, before, the Rambam does write in a few places that prophecy will return when Mashiach will come. But the Rebbe writes that in general, it doesn't mean that there's no prophecy at all after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. And the Rebbe goes, you look at the Sichas Chelik Yudalit, and it's Pasha Shoftim, I think, whatever, and the Nal of Shoftim Nal. The Rebbe discussed, I don't want to go to, not going to have time to go to what the Marim Mekayim. The Rebbe brings different proofs that the idea of prophecy still remains now. At least, the way the Rebbe says that even though there's certain sources which seem to imply that the return of that the prophecy sees, maybe it's a higher level of prophecy, but it's definitely lower level of prophecy is still Shaykh. Even after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, it's just not so. It's not so found as it was during the time of the Beis Hamikdash. Why is prophecy now? And the Rebbe explains it's not pshat and mitzad the Eibishter, the communication from above stopped. It's just there's no kalim down here. Our line is disconnected. We're not a vessel for it. The Rebbe writes the same thing with the Torah Parshas Nitzavim. But the Eibishter's the Shirah such the Nevuah is there. It's just from us we're not proper vessels. Why aren't we proper vessels? So some simple answers that Rambam writes from later Nevuchim, a Navi and Nevuah could only come in a state of happiness. In the time of Galus, who's happy, not able to receive prophecy. Other of the daily Yisrael explain the prophecy is only Shaykh when the Aron is in its place in the Beis Hamikdash. So the Beis Hamikdash and the Aron is the source of divine communication for the world. Once that was hidden, the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Prophecy is limited or whatever. It's not the way it was before. Etc. There's a lot of discussion of why what it means that prophecy was taken away, but definitely there are lower levels of prophecy, which are the Rebbe's point is that it's still included in the general term of Nevuah, despite the fact that if you look in different sources, there's Nevuah and Ruach HaKodesh and a Baskel and a dream, There's many different levels here, which I'm not the biggest. Definitely don't have prophecy myself, so I can't really tell you much about it. But you look in the sources, the whole discussion is different things. But the Rebbe says, the Rebbe does accept the fact that it's shaykh, that from certain sources it seems a certain level of prophecy that's not shaykh now. But the Rebbe says it doesn't mean that prophecy in general, in its even in the lower form, is not shaykh now. Stam Lohor is an interesting thing. The Rebbe doesn't bring it down, but you have the Maggid of Mezrich said this, and the Maimali Malach mentioned, and a few other Talmidei Maggid mentioned. They say that B'zman HaGolus it's easier to get Ruach HaKodesh than B'zman HaBayis. Why? They bring a mashal of a king. When the king is in his palace, when the king is in his palace, who could go into the king? But when the king, let's say the king is on the road, and he's not in his house, and so anyone that has some clean enough house that the king feels comfortable to go in, he'll go there. So Derech says, similarly, in time the Beis Hamikdash, the king was in his palace, so to go into the king, if you want to invite the king to come to your house, you have to build a nice palace and really convince the king that your palace is deserving of a visit. Which means that a person had to be on a level that he could be married, that the Eibusher should come to him to reveal himself to him. But now in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, now in the time of the Galus, since the Shechina is also in Galus, so wherever the Shechina finds a person that's pure, that's clean, so he'll go there, he'll reveal himself to him. So it's interesting how to connect it, how to reconcile with other. The Chachamim say the prophecy stopped, it was taken away, is a separate question. But it's an interesting thing that in a certain sense, in other places it actually explains quite the opposite, that it's B'zman HaGolus, it's shaykh, that there should be prophet, Ruach HaKodesh, at least, whatever you want to call it, more than it was in time of the Beis Hamikdash. But what I wanted to point out is that what the Rambam writes in his Zigeres Teiman, his famous letter of Teiman, the Rambam writes that he has a tradition from all the way back in his family that before Mashiach comes will be the return of prophecy. He quotes, he has a whole chesh which I don't want to go into based on the prophecy of Bilam. Will come a time the prophecy will return, and his cheshbon comes out and will return in the year Taf Kuf Ayin Vav, which is 4,976. And the Rambam says there's no doubt that the return of prophecy will be the leading to the coming of Mashiach. People ask, Mashiach didn't come then. So the Rebbe writes, the Rebbe writes, other things mixed in which held back Mashiach's coming. But we do find that at that time, there was a resurgence of prophecy. You have the Rebbe writes, you have the Rekeach, Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, a number of Gedolei Yisrael that were known for their prophetic capabilities, their ability to foretell the future and to reveal secrets of the Torah and so on and so forth. The Rebbe says furthermore that the revelation of the Arizal, the revelation of the Baal Shem Tov and the Rebbeim, which there also you see two fundamental things that the Arizal and the Rebbeim brought with them. One is the deep revelation of understanding of the Eibishter, which in a certain sense is also connected to Nevuah, this divine wisdom which can't be revealed, you can't test it in a laboratory, it's coming from a higher source. And together with that, because of their great connection with the Eibishter, they were able to tell people what to do in the physical needs. People used to sit them with us to do here, to do there. So this was an outcome of a great revelation of godliness that they had. So the Rebbe says this is all part of what the Rambam is writing, that before Mashiach comes, will be the return of prophecy. What is the point of this return of prophecy before Mashiach comes? So the Rebbe writes, the Rebbe in Shoftim Nun Aleph and other places, and it's explained, that the point is that everything that we have to have a preparation for Mashiach. So first of all, the preparation for the prophecy of Mashiach, and the prophecy that Mashiach himself will have, and that will be in the days of Mashiach, comes through the return of prophecy that we have now before Mashiach comes. But there's another point that the Ramak discusses. The Zohar says, the Chodesh says that Eliyahu Navi will come. It says you'll be the one. That'll be the first one that will come before all the prophets, before Mashiach comes. And the Zohar says there are some people you will reveal yourself with your soul, with your neshama, in a way of neshama, in a way of wisdom, face to face. The point is, as explained in a number of sources, Eliyahu Navi, right? We all heard about Gilui Eliyahu, revelation of Eliyahu Navi. But revelation of Eliyahu Navi doesn't necessarily mean that you see a guy that is Eliyahu Navi. In many sources it's explained, you had Talmidei Chachamim that they found that there were certain secrets of the Torah that became known to them all of a sudden. They were able to understand Torah They didn't know how this idea came to their head. That was Eliyahu Navi. Eliyahu Navi was revealing them in their head, putting things in their head. They didn't see him, they didn't know he was around, but the revelation of prophecy of Eliyahu Navi that he was communicating to people was sometimes not felt in a revealed way, was felt through their neshama, through their intellect. Very high individuals merited to actually see Eliyahu face to face and learn from him. So the Ramak writes, so the reason why you're going to have this preparation is, if Mashiach comes, or not, really the Rambam says this word. You have to have a Navi to prepare the Jews for Mashiach. If Mashiach comes, a great revelation of godliness, not ready for it, it's not going to be very good. So you have, as a preparation for Mashiach comes, is divine knowledge that's revealed, this prophecy that's coming to the world, in order to slowly, he goes through a whole thing, different levels of prophecy, one will lead to the next, more revealed levels. It's all to prepare the world for Mashiach. So the idea of the return of prophecy, so to say, is meant to prepare the people. This is what the Rebbe says also, the reason why there was a revelation of Chassidus, of the Arizal and the Chassidus. This was all a taste of Mashiach to prepare us for Mashiach. We shouldn't just all of a sudden one day go from one extreme to the other extreme, not knowing anything about Atzilus or whatever it is, and all of a sudden one day all these things should be revealed to us. So this is the purpose, in a certain sense, of the return of prophecy before Mashiach comes. What is the Hirah for us? So I'll just have to finish off. It's getting late, but the Hirah is, Rabbi says in Sheikh Nunala, first of all, that we have to acknowledge and understand that there are prophets around, that Rebbeim, Chassidus, the Rebbe in our generation, and we have to fulfill their Hirahs. We have to, in other words, as a preparation for Mashiach, which then prophecy will be abundant to all and be even on a much higher level, like I mentioned before. But as a preparation to that, we have to understand and acknowledge that this idea of prophecy already exists. And there is a Navi, there's a Rebbe, someone that the Eibusha communicates through him the things that we need to do. And we have to accept his Hirahs. And particularly the idea of the Mashiach is coming to prepare for Mashiach. So this is what's negayah to us in a practical way. But anyway, there's obviously many more things to discuss. Maybe next week I'll touch upon the other nekudas. But I think it is we should.
Shiur will be. When the Shiur is going to be.
Next week the Shiur will be on Wednesday, Mr. Shem.
Wednesday.
And the idea is we should have the revelation of Mashiach
next week on Wednesday, and then next week we'll decide if it's going to be Monday or Wednesday. Yeah.